I still like this book. It's still a great book. But now, 10 years later, I look at this book, and I find it almost manipulative. I find it very manipulative, actually. If you do these tactics, you do these things, you come there, work the room, and you're going to become very successful. This whole networking thing is just overblown. I talk about in my book, the whole thing about net giving, that you can't live your life like this book, meeting all these people, all these contacts, try to meet people so they can help you. If it's all about you, all this networking, all this stuff, if it's all about you, you might be successful financially. I was. But you're going to have an empty, hollow life. So the last 8 years, I've been transformed and building relationships and what I call fifth floor relationships and getting to know people and thinking about how I can help and serve other people. When I meet people, how could I learn about them? How could I help them? How could I serve them? And becoming CEO of other people and starting organizations and building customers and clients and loyal employees, it's incredible. So that's what I wrote. I wrote a book. And the first week the book came out, the first week of my first book, debuted #2 New York Times bestselling author. And the only book that it didn't beat was that book, Eat, Pray, Love, because the damn movie came out with Julia Roberts like the week before. But it's been the #5 top-selling business book in America this past year. And I'm on a 200-city book tour around the world talking about this book. And people are resonating with the message because they don't want transactional relationships. They want real relationships. Employees that work for you don't want just transactional employees that all care about the bottom line. They want people that actually care about you. So I want to talk about just a few stories of customers and clients, a story about having relationships with your employees, and a story about the community. I bank at a small bank in upstate Colorado called Vector Bank. It's a small regional local bank, and I'm in the middle of this huge book tour, and I came home last year because my daughter was turning 5 years old, and I only have one girl, and her birthday was on Saturday, and I came home on Thursday early from the book tour, and I wanted to attend her birthday party. My daughter saw a Disney movie with horses, and she just fell in love with horses. I mean, the kid lives, breathes, eats horses. She wants to dress up like a pony girl, and she wants to talk about it. So my wife, being the creative person she is, she had a little pony party. And she had little cupcakes and invitations, all horses and so forth. The ironic thing is my daughter's never even ridden a horse or even seen a horse, but she loves horses. So I'm making a deposit at the Vector Bank. It's a Thursday. There's a long line behind me, a long line ahead of me. I get there, make a deposit, and I put my BlackBerry down right on the little counter of the bank teller. And the bank teller, who I've seen a couple times, said hello, and she looked at my BlackBerry, and there was a picture of my daughter. I have 3 kids, but Caroline gets the picture of my BlackBerry because she's right here. And so she asked me, "Is that your daughter?" I said, "Oh, yeah, it's my daughter. I'm home on business, and my daughter is turning 5 on Saturday, and she loves horses. My wife's got this pony party, and she's got cupcakes and all that stuff, a horse theme, and I can't wait." And she just smiled and kind of did the deposit, the transaction, and she kind of scooted me away because there was a long line behind me. Well, next morning I get up and I have my cup of coffee, worked out in the treadmill, and I'm turned on my laptop, and it's Friday morning. I get an email from this woman, Lindsay Burr, who I've never heard of before. And I said, "Who's Lindsay Burr?" "From Vector Bank." And this is what she wrote. "Dear Mr. Spaulding, my name is Lindsay Burr. I'm the bank teller at Vector Bank who I met yesterday. I really wanted to spend time with you and talk to you about your daughter's birthday party, but there was a long line behind you, and I had to, serve the clients and customers. But I wanted to tell you that I grew up in Colorado, and I love horses. And you told me that your daughter loves horses, and you told me your daughter's actually never ridden a horse, but they're having a party on Saturday morning. So I looked up in the database and found out where you lived. And I know that you live in Castle Pines, Colorado. So I took the liberty and did some research and found out that there's 3 horse stables in your area. So I called all 3 of the stables this morning, and 2 of them you have to be 6 years old to ride a horse. So that wouldn't be good because your daughter's turning 5 on Saturday. But Cottonwood Riding Ranch in Littleton, Colorado, you could be 5 years old and ride your horse, and they have a 3 o'clock lesson on Saturday. Wouldn't it be a great surprise if you could take your daughter horseback riding after her pony party, and she can ride and touch her first horse?" This is my freaking bank teller that sends me this email. I'm not sure if you guys have that kind of customer service with your bank. And I know there's some great banks in here. But a bank teller. A year later, my wife and I now own a damn horse for my daughter. And that's a true story. We just got from a dude ranch in Wyoming a couple weeks ago and just watching my daughter ride horses. It is amazing how much my daughter Caroline loves these animals. It's part of her. Because my bank teller found a way to serve her client, serve her transactional banking customer in a way that builds these deep, meaningful relationships. Lindsay Burr is not a bank teller anymore because I wrote a letter to the president of Vector Bank and personally went to see him and tell him the story. She's now the branch manager at Vector Bank because she had the audacity to find out how to serve their client differently. And every single person in this room has a customer, has clients in some fashion. And I'm going to challenge you early in the morning to write down the name, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 of your top customers, your top clients, the people that bring the revenue in your organization, who are the top stakeholders in your organization. Write down their names and look at their names. Every time they hear from you is because you want to sell them something, upsell, follow up on something about your business? Or do you know that they have a daughter that loves horses? Do you know they're passionate about golf? Do you know that they're absolutely passionate about University of Michigan? I mean, how do you know? Do you know them? And are you connecting with them and finding ways to help advance them and serve them beyond your services? That's how you build what I call fifth floor relationships. I believe, and I talk about in the book, that there's 5 levels of personal and professional relationships, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to the 5th floor. And most of us have what I call first floor relationship, very superficial, transactional. Some of us might have the second floor relationship, what I call NSW relationships, which is news, sports, weather. That's what you talk about, news, sports, weather. Guys are great at this. They have a lot of golfing, football games, baseball games, news, sports, weather, maybe talk about business, but never moving beyond. Let me tell you about my day yesterday. I bumped into my old fraternity brother I haven't seen in 20, 25 years. I didn't even really know him very well because he was much older than I. Plus, he was a complete jerk to me when I was in college. And I went to his house. I met his wife, met his kids. His son's got dyslexia. There was an instant connection. We get to dockside. These guys are drinking beers. I'm drinking Diet Coke because I'm nursing a cold, watching all the games. 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. I didn't want the night to end because we're talking about our families, talking about marriage, how hard it is, and how we want to be better men and better husbands, talking about God, talking about life, talking about real stuff. We weren't talking about the bullshit news, sports, weather. That lasted 15 minutes. That's real. That's real stuff. And the reality is we move such in our busy world, we forget to have those types of talks, those types of conversations, those types of vulnerability. You run an organization. You work for a company. You got customers and clients. People want transparency. People want authenticity. People want vulnerability. People follow and sell and buy from those people, not NSW first, second floor. You want what I call a 4th or 5th floor relationship. When you build relationships with these customers and clients where you think you got their back, you know more to them than just a number or a customer, that you want to serve them. Think about that bank teller. How could you give that service to your top 25 clients? How could you have that vulnerability and the kind of conversations that Joe and I and Scott Diggs and I had yesterday? We all have employees. We all work for someone. A lot of cultures in North America, and I've been traveling around the country, working with all types of companies, talking to all kinds of companies, and the organizational cultures is so important. And I want to tell you another story that really kind of talks about leadership. I have a friend, and I'm going to actually write this story in my next book, and he is probably one of the most renowned bankers in America. And he was the number 2 banker for this huge multi-billion-dollar bank. And I'm not going to tell you the name of the bank or the name of the person for privacy reasons. But he recently quit this position as number 2. And everyone in the country knew that he was the heir apparent to become CEO and president of one of the biggest banks in the country. He quit. And he went to work for a more regional local bank as president of the bank. And I remember taking him to lunch just recently and saying, Scott, why did you make this change? And he says, not only did I make the change, but I took a 25% pay cut. And I said, you're crazy. You were the heir apparent to be CEO of this huge billion-dollar bank, and no offense, but you're running a kind of a small, it's like not a lateral, but it's like a demotion. He said, can I tell you a story? I said, yeah, and he told me this story. I got recruited at a Harvard Business School from the president and CEO of this bank. He recruited me, and he and I built $1 billion bank. Now it's a $4 or $5 billion bank, private jet, golf clubs, sporting events, Super Bowls. We entertain clients. We raised billions of dollars together. In those 15 years that I worked under him, 15 years, he has no idea that I have a Down syndrome son. Do you know how hard it is to raise a kid with Down syndrome? He has no idea. You know why? Because he's never asked. I think he knows my wife's name because he sees her name on a name badge at company events. But in 15 years, he's never taken me out to lunch. He's never taken me out to golf. He's never taken me to dinner. He has no idea about what I go through every day. He doesn't know me. And you know what? In 15 years, I don't think I know anything more about him than I did the first interview when I at Harvard Business School, except what I read on the bio. People don't want to work for people like that anymore. Then he tells me, let me tell you about this new bank I work for. And he told me about the chairman of this bank. He told me about the strategic planning session they had in their house, his house up in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And he invited Scott, my friend, and about 8 other regional presidents of the bank up to his place. And they're doing this 2 or 3 day strategic planning session. The chairman of this bank, a very successful businessman of his own right, gets up and clinks his glass and pours some Silver Oak wine around the table and says, we're going to spend the next couple of days together. And I thought, for Scott's sake, we kind of get to know each other a little bit, is I want everyone around the room to kind of share a story, something in your life that helped define who you are, and maybe some obstacles that you overcome. And I want to start. So the chairman reaches in his pocket and he pulls out his wallet. And he takes out this picture. This picture of his wife, his beautiful wife, and his little girl, must be 5 or 6 years old. And he just kind of shows it around the table. And Scott's looking, thinking, what's going to come out of this guy's mouth? And he says, this is not my wife. This is my ex-wife. And this is not my daughter. This is my daughter who can't stand me. He doesn't want to talk to me and is sick of me. Because I spent so much time trying to build this bank, folks, I got lost and I misguided and I made a mistake and I cheated on my wife. And my wife caught me and she left me. And she's sick of me and my daughter's sick of me and they want nothing to do with me. And every day I wake up and I'm trying to earn back my daughter. I'm trying to earn back my wife. And this is my fight. I want my family back. And he starts crying. And my friend, Scott, is looking up at him, just freaking out, saying, this is outrageous. Like, who says this stuff? And then he watched everyone go around the table talking about stuff in their life. It's unbelievable. I'm not saying that at 9 o'clock we're going to cut and break and you're going to go back to your offices. And you're all going to go back and you're going to have these strategic planning sessions and you're going to pull out your wallet and you're going to start telling your dark secrets to all your employees. No, I'm not saying that. Please don't take it that way. But I want to tell you that I've actually spoken 3 or 4 times to that bank. I've actually done some consulting work with that bank. There's something very special about the culture of that organization. Very special. Because the CEO, the founder, the chairman leads with authenticity and vulnerability. And folks, your employees, they want to know you. When things are tough, they don't want to hear, things are going to get better. You got to be talked to them. You got to be transparent. You got to be authentic. When I became the CEO of Up With People, I took it over into bankruptcy. A 50-year organization, 4 halftime shows in the Super Bowl, been to 92 countries, thousands of employees, and one of the largest nonprofit organizations in the world. I get up on stage, and people are wanting to hear a pep rally talk, and I told them, it's going to be hard to turn around this organization. We're going to have to cut. We're going to have to close offices. We're going to have to get more donations. Stand ovation, because people want truth. They want authenticity, and they want openness. If you can build those types of relationships inside your organization, you can have a very successful external of your organization.